Hello and welcome back to the Transfer Flow. And on today's episode, we're choosing some moves that we would love to see happen in January, including a passing midfielder for Tottenham Hotspur, an attacking midfielder for Aston Villa. And then we look at the most exciting coach outside Europe, as well as running the rule over some likely moves ahead of the January window, including Kobbie Mainoo to Napoli and Milan's striker search. That's all on today's episode of the Transfer Flow. So we're back for another midweek edition of the Transfer Flow, just before we break up for the holidays. Joining me today to make our way through all the stuff that's we've had a bunch of stuff mounting up on our schedule that we need to get through. And joining me to go through it is Neel Shalat. How are you doing, Neel?
I'm good, but you said a holiday? What's a holiday?
Look, a holiday for you, Neel, would be a day when no football was happening anywhere on earth.
Whatght that? How does that happen? Is that like when the universe ends? Is that like 13 billion years from now?
I thought you were going to be like, you mean a day when I log on to like Footballia and like catch up on some games
What
from
was going
6
on
months
in
ago?
1976?
Yeah, it's just like, I've been watching a lot of watching a lot of 1970s Udinese lately. Like, this is the kind of conversation I expect to have with you in January. The football is on pause though, where you are, right? Like the football has turned into a water park instead.
Yes, believe it or not, it is raining here. And I was also introduced to the concept of rain by Patrick because I just saw water falling from the sky and I was like, what's going on? And he kindly told me that's what happens in England very often. It only happens once or twice a year over here. And they don't prepare for it. So we had like 15 minutes of rain and the pitch was waterlogged. Job done.
I love that they were just like, well, that will never happen. Like, it's not like it never happens as well. Like, it does happen. Just
it's close enough to never. Like you generally forget. Like genuinely,
sure.
After like 9-10 months without rain, like you forget it's a thing. And then like one day it starts and like, wait, what's going on here? And you're like, oh yeah, this is like a normal weather phenomenon for most parts of the world.
I guess you can forget things like that.
Like you could probably forget the sun, couldn't you?
Could I forget the sun?
Yeah, like in the winter, you don't see it for like, I don't know, a week or something.
True, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah.
Like
Yeah, but it's kind of always.
I know this. Yeah. What I do forget is like sometimes I will put my children down for the evening and then like go downstairs and sit there with my wife and we have the monitor and then one of them will make a noise on the monitor and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that I had children. For like 30 minutes. Like 30 glorious minutes. I was just like, what am I going to do tomorrow? And then it was like, oh yeah, I know what I'll do tomorrow. I will literally like grind my teeth while one of them refuses to get dressed for 30 minutes. Like that's what will happen. Look, we're not here to talk about this nonsense. We're here firstly to beg for your subscriptions. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel because as I said the other day, we're closing in on 10,000 subs. We really do want to hit that mark by the end of the calendar year. But we've got a bunch of stuff to get through today. We're going to talk about some January transfers, moves that we want to see happen. We're also going to talk a little bit about Flamengo because, honestly, Neel has actually been begging us to do this for 2 weeks now.
3 weeks.
But they're having a big year. And then there are some transfer rumours as well that we want to go through and rate. So should we start off with the moves that we want to see? Because, obviously, there's loads of stuff going around right now. Like Mark Guehi's been linked all over the place. Like Antoine Semenyo, apparently today, Sky Sports are reporting that Man City are like leading the race to sign Antoine Semenyo, which is a bit of a rogue one. But those transfers, honestly, are kind of boring now. Like we've talked a lot about those players, don't really care. So we thought instead it would be nice to look at some needs for some of the clubs in the Premier League and find someone who we think would be a really exciting choice to fill those holes. So, Neel, I'm always excited to see who you bring to this. Who have you got? Which team are you looking at first? What need and which player?
Yeah, so I was listening to Monday's episode, and you very kindly gave me a suggestion at the end to look at a midfielder for Tottenham. A midfielder, I should add, who passes the football, which may be a new concept for Tottenham fans. Just like I forget the rain, they've probably forgotten what a passing midfielder is. But, I mean, obviously we've spoken about this like all the time on the podcast, on the newsletter, everywhere, that this is a massive hole in Tottenham squad, which we could see like from the start of the year. Honestly, it was glaringly obvious that this was going to be an issue, and it has been an issue. So yeah, I thought, well, let's take a look at a midfielder who. So now, one of the challenges with this is like we don't know how long Thomas Frank is going to last, and obviously we're not getting a guy
Yes, that is a
specifically
problem.
for Thomas Frank. But my read on like his decisions and selections is I think he is completely against the idea of playing like a deep lying midfielder who isn't physically imposing, like who isn't going to win most of his duels.
It does seem that
Um,
way.
yeah, for the most part. So what I thought is, let me go and find a midfielder who is one, physically imposing and wins most of his duels, and this is the
Hmm.
crucial part. Two, knows how to pass the football. And so I went off searching, and this, by the way, I should say is why I didn't go with Angelo Stiller, which, like you said, was could be one of the obvious options
Yeah.
on Monday. But so he's like 30th percentile for dual wins this season in the Bundesliga. Just winning less than one aerial duel per 90, and only at a 40% win rate. So he's kind of not the strongest in duels. And so I thought, okay, let's go and get someone who probably isn't going to be as good a passer as Stiller, but still can do a decent enough job, and will be secure enough for anyone to be comfortable to play him deep in midfield. So I'll just talk through how I kind of looked for this. So I obviously had like a few names going through my head, but I thought let me try and like find this profile first. So I used this like web app by this excellent Twitter account called Football Economist called
Okay.
Profiled. So the app is basically it takes data from I think FBref and a couple other places of all the players, and then you can set like different filters for different profiles in different positions. So obviously we were looking for a midfielder, and so there's like a bunch of traits. So like one is ball winning, destroying, it's like carrying, box
Okay.
crashing,
That's cool.
dictating. So what I did is I thought I'll put some emphasis on dictating and progressive passing because that's obviously the key stuff we're looking for. And then I obviously added in like ball winning and destroying because that's the other side of it. I was like, okay, carrying, creativity, box crashing is not so important for this one. Although obviously any of that would be good to have. And I set it to like under 30 because we don't want retirement people. And then I should be saying stuff like that, should I? And then, um, so then I started off with like putting the filters really high. So like in my first search, the only two guys from the Big Five leagues I got were like Chouameni and Szoboszlai, and then I started like slowly bringing it down. And one of the
Okay.
names that popped up was Bryan Heynen, and I will come
Okay.
back to Bryan Heynen soon.
Those are good
But
signs, though, right? That like you set your parameters, and the guys you're getting at the top as a boss line and sure many.
yeah, exactly. Because that's what we're looking for. So it's good if those guys pop up at the very top, and then obviously you're not getting that level of player. So then you go down a little bit and see if you can find someone who may be more like attainable for Spurs. So yeah, so Brian Heynen obviously came up, and I think that's like not a terrible idea, but he's 28,
Okay.
hasn't ever played outside Belgium, so there's a few more question marks with him. So I thought, well, how about we still look for someone else? And as I was looking through Hayden's profile, one of the similar players that stood out was Raphael Onyedika, who
Okay.
I was like thinking of initially as well before I started searching. So I was like, okay, that's a very good sign, because yeah, like I was thinking he's probably somewhere there, and as it turns out, he is somewhere there. So Onyedika, for those who aren't aware, is a 24-year-old Nigerian. He came through Midtjylland through their kind of youth system, and then through their under 19 team and then the senior team. Moved to Club Brugge in 2022 and has been a regular. Made 165 appearances for them, has been linked with a few transfers as well. In the summer, Frankfurt reportedly had a bid rejected, which was a 2 million loan plus 15 million obligation to buy. Galatasaray also bid 5 million loan and 15 million obligation to buy. And some reports said even personal terms were agreed. But Club Brugge at the time were asking for 25 million. And those were obviously going up to 20 at most.
Okay.
So he's been linked with move. It seems he's open as well. But Club Brugge, I think, were hesitant to sell for a couple of reasons. One, obviously getting the fee, but also because they did sell Yashari already in the summer,
Yeah.
so probably they didn't want to sell both their midfielders at the same time. And he was linked to West Ham as well. And now there's reports again that Frankfurt are interested in this, like the January window. Galatasaray as well. Obviously, his international teammate Victor Osimhen plays for Galatasaray, so there's a connection there. But like, if I had to guess, I would think Club Brugge will certainly take like 25 million, which they reportedly were asking in the summer now, because for one, his contract is still 2027. So if they wait till the summer, then he'll just have a year left, and then they might not be able to get as much as they want. And the other is also that they've had this young midfielder called Alexander Stankovic, who came in the
Okay.
summer, who's settled in quite nicely alongside Onyedika in the midfield. So they're a bit more settled over there. I mean, they have changed coaches now, just very recently. So there's obviously more turnover on the whole, but I think they're better set in midfield now than they were in the summer. So it makes sense for them if they get a good bid, like around 25 million euros, to consider it. So like Onyedika is kind of seems like a good fit for this role because he is quite well rounded. I think he obviously, like when you look at him, it's clear that he's quite well built. He's
Hmm.
strong in duels and he covers ground excellently as well. Like when you're watching him, he's mopping up in deep midfield for Club Brugge quite a bit, going from side to side, kind of jumping on the counter press or tracking back, like against transitions really well. So he's got the defensive side quite well covered. But then on top of that, he also does show some good passing signs. He's not like the most progressive passer in the world. He's not like a deep lying playmaker who'll just dictate things all over. But he kind of cycles the ball around well, can get you through midfield, break one or two lines. And he also often likes to drop into the back line for Club Brugge to play forward. Though he also can kind of link in midfield as well, receiving with his back to goal. So he gives you a few options. Um, and on the whole, I would say he's kind of more of a secure passer who adds some progression rather than like a more of a risk taker. But if you look at his stats, for example, last year he was at 91.3% pass completion rate in the league, with 5.03 progressive passes per 90.
Yeah.
And his long pass completion rate was, I think, at 80%. So he only tends to go long, or hit a switch when he's like pretty sure he's going to be able to make
Hmm.
it. So
Hmm.
that's the kind of passing profile we're looking at. Obviously, one of the questions is the translation from the Belgian Pro League to the Premier League. And in his case, what we do have is a good sample of Champions League minutes from last season
Yeah.
to look at. And so in the league last season, he was doing 4.35 progressive passes per 90, which dropped to 2.12 in the Champions League. So that's a pretty big drop. And like I say, he's probably not kind of going to be like the outstanding progressive passer in the side, but he'll give you a bit, and he'll be quite secure with his passing and off the ball. And like I think for Spurs, more so than the like longer switches or longer bursts to the winger, the main thing I feel they need is someone to get it from defensive midfielder into attacking midfield, into where right now Xavi Simons is, in
Yeah.
the future James Maddison, Dejan Kulusevski, all of those guys are. That's the main thing they're lacking, and I think Onyedika definitely can help you do that. So in that respect, I think he'd be quite a good signing. And I mean, I just for like this line of thinking, I was looking at like Simons, and like his number of touches per game versus how good a game he had, basically. And so he's
Okay.
he's had a crazy range. Like against Aston Villa, he had just 17 pass receptions, and
Wow.
obviously didn't have a good game. And then against Brentford, where he got his goal and assist, he had 36 pass receptions.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is, in both those games, Spurs had 53% possession. So it was not like in one of the games his receptions have been kind of inflated or deflated because there's less possession for Spurs. It's the exact same amount of possession. It's just he's being found more or being found less, and obviously how the opposition is playing and whether he's being marked and all of those
Hmm.
things. So I feel like Simons obviously, but like Madison or Kulusevski are the kinds of guys you basically feed them, and then it's up to them to make something happen. So you just need to get that kind of pathway working, and Onyedika definitely helps you do that. The other thing with him is I feel he's well rounded enough to play alongside any of the existing options. So he can play alongside Palhinha, for example. And I mean, I don't know why you play Palhinha, but if you still want to play Palhinha, he'll play alongside him and take care of more of the passing. Or he can play alongside like a Bentancur or, I mean, Archie Gray. He's going to play much, but if you play him, in that kind of game, Onyedika will be the more secure guy who holds position more, and kind of screens the back line more. I mean, that's what he's been doing for Club Brugge this season. The guy I mentioned, Stankovic, is the more box-to-box guy, and Onyedika tends to hold his place more, but still does get a fair bit of passing and action involved. So
when he was breaking through as well, Onyedika, like his defensive numbers are lower now than they were when he broke through. When he broke through, he was getting tons of recoveries and tons of defensive actions, and aerially he's always looked really solid. So it's like it feels like there's probably more in there if you did ask him to play a more defensive role. And it would also mean that if you turn over this whole midfield over the next couple of years, which is frankly what you should be looking to do, then you don't need to worry about like the profile you bring in if you've got someone like Onyedika in there, because he's probably going to be able to like mold his game around whether that person is a passer or a runner or more of a defender.
Exactly. And that's why I think Onyedika is an excellent option, because of this versatility he gives you. I mean, he hasn't played as a lone number 6 at any point recently, because Club Brugge mostly play like 4-2-3-1. So like one of the questions is, whether he has the obviously he can kind of pass around well, but whether he has enough in him to be like a lone number 6 with 2 more advanced 8s if Spurs ever want to play against like a Burnley, for example, with both Simons and Maddison, or Kulusevski. Does he have enough to play as a lone 6? In terms of passing, I don't know. In terms of like covering ground, I think he's quite good. So I wouldn't be too concerned on that sense. So that there's potential for that as well. The only questions I kind of have, I mean, one obviously is he's going to be put into a pretty bad midfield. So how much is he actually going to be able to fix? Because he's mostly been in more like competent positions before. And if you rely on him too much, will you keep getting this good level of security and progression out of him? Or will his numbers take a hit if like he's one of the main guys the opposition is focusing on, because they know Palhinha beside him isn't going to do anything. But sure, I mean, that's probably a question for everyone. So
but I mean, like with that kind of stuff, then you're like, well, yes, obviously, like this player is going to need to be paired with a more functional system. Whether it is like Porro coming into midfield or Romero stepping forward or whatever. But you're like, you've got to try something. Like I know what you're saying, that it could be a really rough arrival if they're like, right, we've signed this passing midfielder, and everyone's like, great, thanks for telling us who we need to press. Like that's what we will do. But at the same time, when they do play Palhinha, I can understand why Spurs fans have enjoyed Palhinha a bit, because it does always feel like Palhinha's working. He is always working, and also he's had some key, some important goal involvements this season. But when Palhinha's on the pitch, it's not even like you have 11 okay passers. It's like you're down a man.
You have 10.
So you've
like
got this situation
like a wall. You play the ball to him, it comes straight back.
So the thing with him is, you're just like, are we going to be? I mean, this is very generous to Spurs, but are we going to try and be more defensively competent? Or are we going to be able to like kick the football in the direction that we want to? And those are kind of our options. And at least with Onyedika, it's not an either or. I mean, I can imagine Spurs fans maybe being a bit underwhelmed by like going off the beaten track for this kind of signing. But it is worth pointing out that if you have elite level passing and you're defensively competent and you're a midfielder who's under like 25, you probably cost 60 million pounds and you're not going to Spurs.
Exactly.
That's the honest truth. And so it's not going to be like, Elliot Anderson coming in. Like it is going to be these smart signings, and you bulk out the squad with these kind of smart signings, and then it's very easy to like sprinkle the special stuff on top rather than, okay, we're going to get one passing midfielder and he's going to fix everything. But I completely agree with you about Xavi Simons. Like Xavi Simons needs to be receiving the ball more, and he needs to be receiving it higher up the pitch. Like it is as simple as that. Like he needs to be your attacking hub. He can't be the like the guy who fixes
He's
everything
not a box to
everywhere
box
on the field.
eight. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I really like this one, and I think what interests me about him is that the passing comes down a bit in the Champions League, but the defensive stuff still looks solid enough in the Champions League. I think that's really positive. And like you say, you kind of got to sign guys who the manager's gonna play. Like you can go out and get like, well, you can't go and get like Lobotka, but that kind of player, and like some managers are just going to say, I don't know what to do with this guy. Like he's a specialist, right? Onyedika is someone who I think that any manager can find a place for, and the fact that he's changed role speaks to a level of intelligence and willingness to get his head down that I think Frank would probably respond to, and Spurs kind of need right now. I really like that one.
The only one other thing with January deal for him is that he is part of Nigeria's AFCON squad.
Sure.
And so if they go to the final, you go to January 18, which is like half the month plus, and there's 5 New Year fixtures for Spurs before then. So he's realistically going to be not there for up to 6-7 games. By the way, Nigeria are extremely stupid and still play Wilfred and Didi ahead of Onyedika in midfield.
But it's just like Nigeria. The Nigerian national team is just always like doing something funky.
Come on, guys.
But at the same time, I just think like, what are stakes for Spurs this season? They're going to get through in the Champions League, fine. But like in the league,
not getting relegated.
They're not getting relegated, and they're not getting Champions League. They're probably not getting much of anything. So it's kind of like, just try and do things that are going to make you good in 2 or 3 years rather than thinking about the present. I like that one. I also thought, maybe I'll look at a player for Spurs, or maybe a 6 for United. And there are guys out there, like it's kind of gone quiet around Agume. And I wonder if that's a player that these teams could get hold of. He was rumored to be on the market last summer. I think City could do with a midfielder who is a passer. They could do with someone who can control tempo a bit. Because it feels like they have guys who are okay when they go 100 miles an hour, but they no longer really have anybody who's just like able to control the tempo of the game, able to pick the moment to speed up. Striker for Chelsea, but look, we're not talking about Chelsea here because it's ridiculous. Centre back, right back kind of thing for Liverpool. These are all things that I thought about. But in the end, I thought I'd talk about the team of the moment. Perhaps the best team in Europe right now.
By far.
Aston Villa.
Your favorite.
Oh, I love them. Anybody who's talked about Aston Villa online recently has got so much hate from Aston Villa fans. And it's always like, if you ignore the bits where we're not good, then we're really good. Or you can't blame us for getting really annoyed when you say that our team isn't actually that good in the underlying numbers. It's like, well, don't come and have the conversation with me then. But look, anybody can tell you that Villa are running exceptionally hot right now. Exceptionally hot. And that's not going to last. But it's also an amazing opportunity. Like, you can take advantage of it and bring somebody in to strengthen the attack now and try and become the team that your results suggest you are, even if you're not that team at the moment. Like, that's absolutely what you should do when you're on a hot run. Like, what you should definitely not do is say, we're great, everything's fine, especially because Ollie Watkins has been really variable in his performance level this season. And I think any future for Villa, well, I mean, maybe they could just like get a great striker out of somewhere. But I think Ollie Watkins can turn into a good penalty box striker as he gets older. He's strong, he's intelligent. I think he's got like he's good in the air. He's got a pretty diverse range of skills. What you don't want him doing is what he's done for the last few years, which is channel running. I think I wrote about this in my preview at the beginning of the season. I want him to do as little of that as possible. And Harvey Elliott looks like he hasn't worked out. He's probably going to go back to Liverpool. Okay, 35 mil saved. Fine. So they probably do have a bit of money. And I think Morgan Rogers as well. I'm sorry, like, you are not a 10, brother. Like, you're just not. Like, he doesn't do anything creative. He just doesn't. I like Morgan Rogers, but Morgan Rogers plays in that role more as a second striker, right? Like, he likes moving around the centre forward. He's got a great shot from range, but he's in the 39th percentile for passes into penalty area. He's in the 34th percentile for expected goals assisted. Like, this is just not what he's good at. You want him as a mover rather than as the final third hub. And So one guy I was looking at is Romano Schmid at Werder Bremen. So he turns 26 in January. His contract is up in 2027. So maybe you can get him for a more reasonable price. And he's always been a pretty reliable producer of goals and assists, like not crazy, but like decent. But this season, he's having his best season so far. Like he's on track to have his best season ever for goals and assists. He's at 0.45 expected goals and assists per 90. But he does loads of other stuff as well, right? Like he's an amazing progressive passer. He was at 9 progressive passes per 90 last season, playing a slightly deeper role. This season, getting forward a lot more. Progressive passes dropped to 6, which is still excellent. But he's doing more final third stuff. So what I like about him is you could play him in place of Tielemans. Like he gives you that possibility. But principally, I think Villa obviously would be interested in his final third ability. And he's a guy who gets on the ball a lot there. And he's got a higher proportion of his touches in the final third this season than ever before. And he relentlessly passes into the penalty area. Like this is something Villa have really struggled to do. And again, this is why we're talking about Villa overperforming. They're just scoring from range all the time. And
why pass into the penalty area when you can score outside the penalty area?
And I think that Morgan Rogers is probably like an above average shooter from range, but he's not above average.
Above average.
He's not like double his XG from range. Like he's not a magician. Like he's just like a good player. He's a good ball striker. Also, as he gets tired in the middle of the season, that would drop off anyway, because it always does. Like you don't hit the ball as cleanly for the duration of the season. It just doesn't happen. So they need to work on that. And Romano Schmid has been 8th in Europe's top 5 leagues for passes into the penalty area per 90 minutes in both this season and last season. He just constantly does it. He's also in the 94th percentile for expected goals assisted. I would like him to take some more shots, but like at the same time, Morgan Rogers takes 1.5 shots per 90. So like, what are we doing here, guys? Like to me, I look at all of Villa's attackers, and again, this is something I wrote in my preview. Most of them are on the ball a below average amount for their position. And guys like Daniel Marlon has always been that way and will always be that way. Daniel Marlon needs to be making runs and having somebody feed him. Morgan Rogers, I think, needs freedom to move around the box. Evan Gesson has just like not settled at all yet. And I think they need to figure out like what he's going to be. But he's not going to be a 10 who's in charge of their attacking play. So I really like the idea of Schmidt helping those players do the stuff they're good at, off-ball running, carrying, last-minute breaks into the penalty area. He also does quite a bit of defending in the final third. He's a decent ball carrier. He's a decent high receiver. But really, I just think that this helps maximize some of the talent that they've got. I think it's a gettable player. And again, like with Villa, my whole thing would be like, we need Ollie Watkins to be good for as long as possible while we figure out the succession plan, because Ollie Watkins has basically been the Aston Villa attack the last few years. And when you see Villa play badly this season, in the past, you would sometimes see them scam goals through Ollie Watkins because he was so amazing at like bullying centre-backs, running into wide areas, breaking into the box last minute, getting his head on something. He just can't do that as much anymore. And Villa have got to think about what comes next. And I really like this player. I'd like to see him come to the Premier League as well. What do you think about this one, Neel?
Yeah, it's an interesting shot, honestly, because he wasn't someone I would have thought of. But like when you make the case, I can definitely see it. I mean, absolutely. As like I would have questions about him in deeper midfield in the Premier League, but in terms of like defensively, and although like Villa sometimes don't care about that, but you should. So definitely someone who's like higher up. But yeah, is very interesting, I think, profile as well, who does suit what Villa like to do. Like he likes to come inside into. Obviously, he's often starting central and drifting around, but sometimes he can start out on the wing as well and come inside, which is what Villa often have one of their wingers do. So I think he does fit like their style of play fairly naturally already. And as you say, he adds a different, a much needed kind of different dimension to what they do. So yeah, could be quite. And he's gonna turn 26 in January, as you said. So not super old.
Yeah,
He'll definitely get you like one good contract at least, give him like 3-4 years. That's a safe bet, I would say. And as you say, he has a pretty consistent. It's and this is the other good thing with players like these, right? Is like, sure, you can go and look at like the guy with the most assists in the Bundesliga or something,
Mm-hmm.
but like he's probably going to come at a premium, and he probably didn't have a great season last year, which is why he's still
Yeah.
playing for whoever he's playing for. Um, as opposed to that, if you can get this kind of a guy who isn't like going crazy on the assist charts, but his underlying numbers are there and have consistently been there season after season, that's usually a safer bet to make. So yeah, I think it's a really good shot. Will Aston Villa find him though? Who knows?
Who knows? But they definitely should do something. If I mean, look, if they want to take the attitude they don't need anything, then be my guest. Okay, well, let's move on from that then, because as promised at the top, Neel, you wanted
Let's
to talk
go.
about Flamengo. Here's your chance. Tell us about why Flamengo is so interesting. Obviously, lost to PSG last night in the whatever it is, the FIFA Intercontinental Cup. Like, sure, the Fairs Cup. But tell everybody why they should be interested in what's going on at Flamengo right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would say they are the best club outside of Europe in the world right now, pretty
Okay.
clearly. I mean, that's one of the things you would say they showed that by making it to the final of the Intercontinental Cup, which is basically all the champions from all the continents coming together,
Yeah.
and they beat Pyramids from Africa and Cruz Azul from North America, from CONCACAF. But like one of the main reasons to be interested in them, from like a more global point of view, would be their head coach, Felipe
Mm-hmm.
Luis, who is 39 years old. Obviously, played for Atletico Madrid most notably in the past. Also, had a year at Chelsea. Played elsewhere in Spain earlier. He obviously played as a defender. Came born and raised in Brazil. Played for the national team, and was a solid defender all around. And now is really proving himself as one of the I would say the kind of one of the most exciting upcoming coaches out there anywhere, not just in South America or Brazil. So he's had quite a rapid journey so far, really, because he only retired at the end of 2023. So he was I think at Atleti till 2019, then moved back to Brazil with Flamengo. So he played for them for 4 years, and then retired at the end of 2023. And then basically in January the next year, he started off as their under 17 coach. By
Mm-hmm.
June, he was their under 20 coach because the previous under 20 coach got a job in Saudi and he got a bunch of money and off he went. And in a couple of months, he won his first trophy, which was the under 20 Intercontinental Cup, because FIFA do
Okay.
love making a lot of competitions. So he beat his under 20 Flamengo side beat Olympiacos, who had won the UEFA Youth League the year before, and
Mm-hmm.
have a few of those talents running around in different parts right now. And then in September, the Flamengo coach Chicha was sacked, and Felipe Luis was made interim till the end of the season on that day. But then the following day, it was announced he was the permanent coach with a contract until the end of 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And he just had a few games to the end of the season. I think his sixth match was the cup final first leg. They won that 4-1 on aggregate against Atletico Mineiro. Put together a very good performance, and have continued really excellent work throughout this season. Have had some ups and downs, but on the whole, I think they've pretty clearly been the best team, as I say, outside of Europe, pretty much. By far the best expected goals, expected goals against, all the underlying numbers in Brazil. Managed a title race both in the league and Copa Libertadores
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously, and ended up winning both, just their second continental double. Also won the state championship and Super Cup earlier in the year, and now took PSG to penalties in this Intercontinental Cup
Yeah.
final, which is, I think, impressive because they had played two games in the week before, while PSG were able to rest their team, even in Liga a fair bit. Flamengo had, and obviously they've played, I think, like I forgot the exact number, but it's something like 10 games in the last 30 days or so because of
Wow.
their league, Libertadores, and then this
Mm-hmm.
Intercontinental Cup. So, like, as for what Felipe Luis has exactly been doing, I mean, I think obviously there's one thing we have to say is he's been helped by having a really experienced squad, and also obviously a high level squad, but of players who have played internationally for many years. So if you look at Flamengo's squad, they are fifth in the Brazilian league based on average age by minutes played at 29.6, which would be first in many of the top European leagues by a fair margin. And like the guys they have include Alexandro, Danilo, Jorginho, Saul, all like guys who've played at the top level in Europe,
Yeah.
played for their national teams at top competitions, World Cups, and so really good collection of players to have as a young coach going in. And but the best one by far is Georgian de Arrascaeta. He
Oh,
has
sure.
never played outside of South America, but I would also argue he's right up there with some of the best players outside of Europe right now. He's at 25 goals and 20 assists in the season, and has always been in like double digits for Flamengo in every season except 2021 since moving in
How
2019.
old is he now?
So he is, I think, 27, 28. Let me have a
Yeah, he
quick
must be
check.
around that.
He's definitely kind of past peak age, but he certainly looks to be at his peak. Sorry, he's 31. Okay, he's a
Oh,
bit
wow. Okay.
older than I thought. But yeah, I mean, he's exceptional. He's really one of the key to their attack because he plays as the number 10 in their 4-2-3-1. And so how they usually played is this 4-2-3-1 kind of drifts towards more of a 3-2-4-1 often. So one of the fullbacks pushes up, the other one stays back. But the key really is the two defensive midfielders, as you saw with names like Jorginho, Saul, Eric Pulgar. Yeah, all of these are very
Okay.
experienced guys who really dictate the play for Flamengo. So they tend to stay quite deep, very close to centre backs, pick the ball up, and dictate how they're going to like the tempo and how fast they're trying to go forward. And then the fullbacks kind of work accordingly. Again, experienced guys like Alexandro, Guillermo Varela on the right side.
Hmm.
Uh, they're really clever with their positioning. So in the league, for instance, when they're playing like a relegation battling team, one of them will push all the way up, create this really wide front five, and then they look to push up with the whole team. The defensive midfielders will kind of take them forward, and they'll break them down with like a spread front five and someone like a winger dribbling or Deras Kaita creating a chance out of something. But the really impressive thing about them is at the same time they can also play teams like Palmeiras, their main rivals in
Hmm.
Brazil and in the Libertadores, or PSG, with a different approach where they're more conservative with their fullbacks. They try to play forward quicker, play more transitional. And again, you do that through the Arcaeta picking the ball up, but also the wingers carrying through the middle, linking up with the striker. And so they have a good deal of versatility to switch between styles of play while keeping the formation fairly similar.
Okay.
And that's really helped them manage these title race in Brazil and Libertadores campaign simultaneously, and then obviously in the Intercontinental Cup as well. And they're also very solid. So I was watching them in person at the Intercontinental Cup here, and one of the things that stood out to me was how well coordinated they were out of possession. I mean, obviously they can press high with like intensity, but being able to sustain that and also being able to manage that at different heights, as in like from a high block or from a mid block or from
Hmm.
lower, takes a lot more coordination. And that's what really impressed me is how often, even against PSG, sometimes like PSG would obviously they PSG are like unbelievably good in midfield and they can play through like
Hmm.
any press, and they would often kind of Flamengo would first they wouldn't overcommit, which is important. They had like a good measured press for PSG. But then when PSG would play through it and they drop into a mid block, they were able to push back at times and force them
Okay.
to go backwards and again step up high. So like they're clearly kind of well coached out of possession. So tactically a pretty well drilled squad. And I mean, to succeed in Brazil, like you have to be a good squad manager because you're
Hmm.
playing like I mean, I run the numbers before. Like for a team like Flamengo, who are competing across all competitions, you're approaching 70 games in a season.
Mm.
You're basically playing twice a week, every week, almost. So he like Felipe Luis has I think done quite a good job on the whole. Again, with a pretty experienced squad, but there's been a couple of youngsters. I mean, obviously Wesley, the right back, moved to Roma.
Right.
He was obviously kind of a standout in the first half of the season. They also have Gonzalo Plata right now, a young winger from Ecuador who I think did well at the last World Cup. You might remember him from there. But obviously, more experienced guys. He's managed on the whole quite well. I mean, one of the main challenges was in like the middle of the season when the results weren't going absolutely great. Pedro, their kind of main striker usually, and definitely I would say one of the best strikers on his good days outside of Europe. Uh, like he had a bit some issues with the coach. He like Felipe
Okay.
Luis came out publicly and kind of criticized him for his work rate in training. He said that so basically after he'd been benched, he was like not putting an effort at all, and like on all the physical metrics they were tracking, he was by far the lowest. And he was obviously not happy with that at all, and basically said that publicly in like a press conference that until he works on that, he's not gonna get a chance. And in the end, obviously, like Pedro had some injuries as well later, so he didn't kind of play every game, but he started, scored, and assisted in the Libertadores final. So it worked out not too badly in the end. And again, obviously they won like two competitions in like the last week of the season, so clearly the management went well on the whole. And also, like generally, obviously, Felipe Luis has played at the top level. He speaks Portuguese, Spanish, and English. So he's, when you think about where he might make his next move, I mean, obviously Spain and Portugal stand out as the two obvious options, but there's a chance he can go elsewhere too because he's quite comfortable with English already and has experience playing obviously in the Premier League too.
Yeah.
So, the main question with him obviously is his limited track record, right? He's only coached Flamengo for a year and a half, and he's been in an environment which has had issues. I mean, like even Sampaoli struggled at Flamengo because of, I mean, for Pedro, in fact, was one of the issues he had, among other
Hmm.
things. It's not an easy environment by any means; it's challenging, but he has been given certainly the resources in terms of players,
Yeah.
personnel, and quality to succeed. And he's credit to him for getting the most out of it. But if you're, most clubs who'll be looking at him won't be the elite clubs. It'll still be like one tier below. If you're those clubs, you're like, okay, he's done an excellent job with a team which are expected to win titles. What will he do for us when our kind of best case ambition is the Champions League? Like we're not going to get the title. Will he be able to overachieve with us and maybe get more out of the squad than you usually expect? So that's one of the questions, but I don't think it's a massive question.
Hmm.
And on the whole, like from what we've seen, obviously in a limited sample, I think he's definitely someone clubs should be looking to. In fact, I was thinking where his best next move might be from
Yeah.
all
This is what I
respects.
wanted to ask you.
And so I thought about it and I was like, and first I was thinking Portugal, but then I thought actually I think he's the best option to succeed Simeone at Atletico. Like I
Yes.
cannot think of a better option in any way because, like, obviously, as we've spoken before, Atleti want ideally to have some tactical evolution after Simeone,
Hmm.
which is arguably what they need and why they'd want to move on in the first place. Uh, and Felipe Luis, I think, will give you that. But equally important is that he's someone who's played for such a long time under Simeone at Atleti, knows all that was going on, and that's going to be such an important part because like this is like replacing Simeone at Atleti is almost a task unheard of. Like the closest thing you
Hmm.
can think of is like Wenger at Arsenal or Sir Alex Ferguson at United. Like these kinds of replacements happen extremely rarely, so it's really difficult to find the right person, and your pool is anyway very limited. But clearly, I think usually you would say it helps to have someone who's familiar with the environment in the past, how things were before, to be the one who takes it from there and gradually instills the changes, rather than get a guy who comes in with everything new and potentially faces a lot of challenges if things aren't going well. I mean, we see those examples every day.
Hmm.
I mean, we're seeing Wilfred Nancy at Celtic right now. It's basically that's what's happening. Is he brought exactly what he was doing in Columbus, and it's not going well. So, but I mean, the other thing is like Flamengo is not a Celtic like job, right? Like he wasn't put in a league which was expected to dominate. Sure, he had one of the best teams in the league, It was not by far the best team in the league,
and
which
one of the
should
richest,
easily.
you know.
Yeah, yeah. But it was not a kind of given that as long as you're like vaguely competent, you'll win the league. Like you still
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
work for it.
Hmm.
So I think there's a good deal of encouragement to take from that. And I think Atleti, like I can't think of a better option. Obviously, given his history, but also like I think he's shown his record as a manager, as a tactician, to suggest that yeah, he has all the tools needed for that job.
Well, it feels like we'll get maybe another season of him there, and at that point, the rumors will become insane, especially if they win the league again.
Yeah,
Or go deep in the Copa Libertadores. Like, I mean, they've been they. I mean, obviously, the last kind of 6-7 years,
yeah,
they've been very strong in the Copa Libertadores. They've been to 4 finals, right, and they've
yeah.
won 3.
Yeah, they also
Um,
did their like double in 2019 as well. So
sure.
yeah, and he was a
Yeah.
player then. So he's one of the few guys who's won the Libertadores as both a player and a coach.
Yeah, so it's a. But I like the Atletico Madrid thing as well. Like from what you've told me about his start, and I do just think that if you are going to move on from Simeone, you do kind of need to give something to the fans who are scared about what that
Yeah,
transition is going to look like. Like that's a guy who's been there since 2011, or was it the
yeah,
end
I
of
think 8
2010?
years or so. Yeah.
It's been there absolutely forever. So
Oh,
it'll be
okay. So
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where Felipe Luis's next spot is. All right, before we get out of here today, we're just going to do a couple of quick transfer rumors that we wanted to talk about. First up, Kobbie Mainoo to Napoli. This one has been talked about pretty much since the beginning of the season. It feels maybe a little bit less likely than it did a couple of months ago, just because he's been playing a little more lately. He got, half an hour against Everton and against Bournemouth. And against tired legs, he has been putting up better passing numbers, better carrying numbers than before. If United did move him on, I guess would it be a loan? Would it be a sale? It feels like you need to get him minutes at this point because he's
Yeah,
closing in on 21. But at the same time, they have an incredibly thin midfield, and if it doesn't give them funds to reinforce it, I don't. They're leaving themselves in a lot of trouble, and now they must be looking at the league and thinking there's an opportunity here to finish in the top 4 or 5. It'll probably end up being 5, right?
yeah.
I don't quite know what the move is.
I mean, yeah. Again, it's kind of similar to the Spurs one where it depends on the coach and how much you're backing him because it's pretty clear that Amorim isn't going to play him anytime soon by the looks of
Mm.
it. Even like last week when he switched to the back four or whatever, and he talks always about how Mainoo is competing for his spot with Bruno, but then always subs him in for Casemiro. Like, okay, man, but it's like it's pretty clear to me that in an ideal world that is the best place for him to be and get like there's clearly an opportunity for him to get regular minutes, like there's an
Yeah.
opening in the squad but he's just not getting them for whatever reason. And then yeah, like as you said, minutes is the most important thing. So I assume it would still be a loan, like, but you never know with United. But I think like at least from what I've read it seems it'd be a loan. And if that's the case, like a 6 month rest of the season loan, I mean, Napoli is pretty much the as good a spot as you can think of, really. Because for one,
But how's he going to play at Napoli? Like, I do look at Napoli and I'm like, a lot of these guys are like kind of hardworking runners in the
yeah,
midfield there, and I think like when I look at why Napoli would want him, I think, do they think that this can be somebody like Lobotka who can like wriggle out of pressure deep in midfield? Like, obviously he's nowhere near that passer, but I'm like, but you know what I mean? Like, he's
yeah,
not particularly athletic. He's quite defensively light, but he is slippery.
yes,
Like that's the only thing, because otherwise I look at that midfield and I'm like, Mainoo and Antonio Conte. I just can't. I can't find a path from one to the other.
yes. So the way I was thinking of it was kind of like a more connecting Zambo Anguissa.
Okay.
So they've used Zambo Anguissa obviously higher up more often, and like one of the reasons I think it would be a good move is because Napoli have also switched to this 3-4-3
Hmm.
in recent months. And so, I mean, the way I could see mine on the side is alongside Labotka, basically, in the double pivot. And so
Sure.
Labotka is the
Okay.
one taking care of more of the deeper build up and the passing, and mine is more of the connector, which is carrying, kind of pushing up more, taking the ball forward. and with a bit more license to try and reach the likes of David Neres or obviously Kevin De Bruyne when he's back, and string that part together. I mean, that's how I see it. And Zambangisa has been injured. He's not going to come back until kind of mid to late January, and
Okay.
you don't know how well, like whether he'll be put back into the double pivot or again back higher up. And then like among the other options, you have, for example, like Billy Gilmore, but Billy Gilmore is again more of a passing guy.
Yeah.
He's a very different profile. So I think like Mainu has the opportunity to offer a fairly like different profile in the Napoli squad. And again, like assuming that they are going for him, which means they have a plan for him, and this is the plan I hope they have for him, then I think this is how the move makes sense. And then, if he does that well, then maybe like next year he can come and be like, look, man, I've played in a double pivot in a 3-4-3.
Yeah.
What the hell more do you want me to do now?
Or and if that doesn't work out, then you get your move to Italy. And
Yeah,
I think
then like off I go.
This is the thing we've talked about. Like the pace of the league also does feel like it's just more Mainoo friendly right now. It would be interesting to see. Like, I do think that Conte might just say, you might arrive and Conte says, I hate you. Like, you will never play for me. But
which would be very funny.
It's extremely Conte-like. But Conte also, I do think, is capable. Like, he would look at Mainoo. Like, if they brought in Mainoo in January, I do think that Conte would say, I know what this guy can do and can't do. And the stuff that he can do, I have a plan for using.
Here's how I can use it. Yeah.
That is at least what I think Conte is likely to do. I didn't think about the formation thing, but I think that's a really good point as well. So I'd be intrigued if that one happens. The other one is the striker situation at Milan. So Milan, one striker, Santiago Jimenez, is due to have ankle surgery. They also, not convinced. Apparently, they want Dusan Vlahovic. He's going to be available on a free transfer next summer, but he's currently out injured until March-ish. So the general consensus in the Italian press is that they're looking for a stopgap in January, and a load of names have been linked. We've seen Gabriel Jesus linked, zero chance. There's absolutely no way. Like he earns like 1.5 times as much as the top earners at Milan, and Arteta will not let a single person leave North London.
He will hold him hostage.
Yeah. There's absolutely no chance. Like honestly, I think to get a player out of Arsenal in January, you would have to offer so much money; it would be insane. Füllkrug is the other guy who's rumored for a 6-month loan, I guess, to get them through to July. It makes practical sense in that, like, West Ham don't want him, and Milan need a striker, but it makes no footballing sense whatsoever. I mean, like, Füllkrug, he's one of those guys. Like, we hated him when he was signed for West Ham. Like, I thought that was absolutely terrible. He's had basically 2 good seasons in top flight football ever. One with Bremen and one with Dortmund. And in both campaigns, he overperformed his underlying numbers. He ended up with like 41 goal involvements over those 2 seasons from 25 expected goals and assists. And if you are one of those people who's convinced that, like, some players just overperform XG by like 1.5 times, that's just normal stuff. Well, he got like 13 assists in there from something like 6.5 expected assists. So unless he's bringing the same teammates with him, he's not going to maintain those assist numbers. Also, I think people look at him and they see big guy. He's nearly 33 now. And they think, oh yeah, we'll put him in the penalty box and he'll score goals. But actually, he never really has been a straightforward penalty box striker, right? Like, he did quite a bit of carrying at Bremen, quite a bit of channel running as well. And if he'd just been a penalty box striker his whole career, I think you could argue, well, maybe at 33 years old in Italy, it's okay. Like, he might age okay, but he just isn't that player. And so I look at Milan and I'm like, sure, okay, go and get a striker. You're a point off the top of Serie A. There isn't a lot available out there. At the same time, just don't do this. Like if you have to, can you not pay some money to get Vlahovic earlier and accept that he's just going to miss a couple of months, but then you should get the last couple of months of the season? I know there's an opportunity to win a Scudetto, but it just feels weird to chuck a bunch of money at somebody who I think is just a horrible fit for them.
Yeah, like I just don't see how it works with the way they're playing right now, where their attack is basically pass the ball to a forward, please do something, score goal. Like that is literally Allegri's attacking tactics, and Füllkrug is not suited for those kinds of tactics.
Those would be
I mean,
my tactics, though, if I had Raphael.
yeah, layout exactly. He's got layout. He's also got the LeBron James of soccer, so that really helps.
He has got the LeBron games of soccer. Yeah, he has.
Yeah. So and those guys are basically the ones doing that. And I don't think Füllkrug can do that. So and that's why like Vlahovic also. I mean, like I should say like Vlahovic also. I have many questions about. I also had many questions about him when he moved to Juve. But the reason I can see him working for Allegri is because he'll pick the ball up, he'll take it forward a bit, and he's a really good ball striker still. So he'll hit some, and some of them will go in, which Allegri will be happy with. Like I think I was just looking at it. So in his last Bundesliga season, Füllkrug, when he was really good and performing overperforming his XG by a bunch and whatever, all of his goals were from inside the box. In order to score a goal inside the box, you need someone to pass the ball to you inside the box. And if you play Füllkrug alongside one of the other attackers, like probably Leao, maybe Pulisic, like that's just two guys up top. Like he's got one reliable form of service, and then there's gonna be like a teenager from left wing back trying to come up and join you. So like Milan aren't the kind of team who are going to create a lot inside the box in like kind of settled possession. That's just not what they do for the most part. So like I just can't see it. I mean, I can't see how it works. I can't see why Milan would do it. I mean, I can't see why Füllkrug or West Ham would do it just to get the hell out of there. But it probably doesn't end well. And like like again, I understand what you're saying about the Scudetto and everything, but like so they have Pulisic, they have Leao, and they have Nkunku right now. Like pray a bit maybe that those guys can keep scoring the goals they're scoring right now, because I can't really see what kind of a striker you want for exactly 6 months to do exactly these specific things, and then bring Vlahovic in and basically you send him to the bench. Like that is an insanely specific set of criteria, which are very difficult to fulfill, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't. The one defense I'll make of them is I think it is genuinely quite hard to find a good option for them. Like I agree that like I would probably just say like let's just Nkunku it and see how it goes.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers.
Yeah. The thing is, you look at stuff like Endrick to Lyon, and you think like, is that something that Milan could have got in on earlier?
Yeah,
or Mark Guiu, like at Chelsea, who's played like 200 minutes. Like, can we get him? If you want to be more ambitious, like Sorloth isn't playing that much at Atletico. That'd be kind of. That would be kind of fun. Like if Milan really tried to go and get him, but it just again I don't really see it happening. Raspadori, I guess, would be more likely actually if you went to Atletico. So I think the options are a bit thin for them. I don't know how much money they have, but if the options are all bad, it might be best just to take none of the options.
Exactly.
rather than like chuck a bunch of money at a shitty option. Yeah, Niklas Füllkrug, I'm sorry, brother, but like you're not it. Like I think he needs his move to Turkey, not for dentistry as well as for football reasons. Sorry, that's really below the belt. But I don't know. I just can't stand this player. And I just remember talking about how much I hated the move at the time and getting so much pushback from West Ham fans. And it's just like the rule of strikers remains the same, which is that if West Ham sign you, you will be crap. Like that is the rule. It never broken. It's never been broken. Whenever I see a striker link with West Ham, I'm like, uh-oh. No. Well, now we're going to find out. If he goes to West Ham, he's bad. If he doesn't go to West Ham, he might still be good. Anyway, I kind of feel like Milan are already like defying gravity by being where they are, but
by far.
It like at least try for like Gonzalo Garcia or something weird before you do this. I don't know.
Yeah, this is like January 31 type of thing. Like it's not whatever, December 15 and ideas to have.
Yeah. And there are also other forwards. Like, it doesn't have to be like, I get that you want a striker, but I do think that if none of the strikers are good, just get a kind of versatile forward. Go like ask Man City about like Oscar Bob or something. I don't know. Like, who cares? Anyway, that's where I am with Milan. And that's where we are for this episode of the podcast. That's going to do us for today. Thank you very much for being here with us. Please make sure that you continue to send in your questions over the Christmas period if anything comes to mind, and we will be getting round to them in Patreon. I'm actually recording a Patreon today with Ted. And we should have some more episodes for you last week before we break up for the holidays. Neel, where can people find you if they're in need? If like you over Christmas, they think like, what is a holiday from football? Who can they find who will coach them through the festive period?
Yeah, we can head over to @ChillatNeel on Blue Sky Twitter. You will definitely see me talking about AFCON. In fact, the next newsletter, which should be out by the time this goes out, will be about a few young players to watch at AFCON. There's just so much to watch at AFCON, man. Like, it's the best football tournament out there. Like, yeah, I'm so seated. I am incredibly seated.
Big time. No, I will watch some AFCON, if only to please you, Neel. Thank you very much. We will see all of you next time. Bye bye.